Hey guys, Toolman Tim here. Welcome back to the workshop where we build business, create community, find freedom, and share success. It's Saturday, which means it's time for another edition of the Weekend Workshop, my favorite segment of the week. And this week I've got a good video for you, and this was 100% user suggested. A little while ago I got a comment on YouTube and I was asked, Tim, have you ever thought about putting together a video talking about putting together a blackout kit or a power outage, power emergency kit? And I thought, it's something I do on a regular basis. I'm sure there's people out there that haven't given a whole lot of thought to it. And I'll bet most of my viewers do this sort of thing already, but there's always something we can learn from one another. So this week I want to tell you or share with you the essentials of putting together a power outage kit. All right, guys, real quick before we dive in, if you want to know more about who I am, toolmantim.co. That's toolmantim.co. You'll find links there to the podcast, weekly podcast, monthly newsletter, and the shop, where I have Amazon links to recommended products of over 100 things broke down into categories, products I've tested, products I've used, things that have worked for me. There's even a preparedness section over there with things like some of the products you're going to see in this video, some of the things I use in my own personal blackout bag, box, whatever you want to call it. Okay, guys, so let's dive into this week's subject. And like I said, this was community suggested, and I was all about putting together a blackout bag video. And if you guys think, what in the hell is a blackout bag? Well, it could be a power emergency kit. It could be what your grandmother used to do, where she kept a few matches and a couple of candles in the drawer in the kitchen just in case the power went out. But for us, we try to be a little bit more serious about putting together, items and things that'll help you in the short term or the long term when the power goes out. And this is probably one of the most common, I don't even know if we'd call it disasters, but this is one of the most common situations that we as, individuals or families are going to face. And that is, waking up in the middle of the night and the power's out. What do we do? So it's nice to have a few items put together that are going to make your life just a little bit easier. And so honestly, there's really two types of blackout bags. The first one is the one that I keep. And then, so that one is something that'll get you by for 3 or 4 hours. If it's a kind of a warmish summer, spring day, and you're like, I don't need to go out and hook up my generator just yet. The stuff in the freezer is going to be fine for a half a day to a day. No problems there at all. I just need enough put together to get me by so that we can be relatively comfortable for 3 or 4 hours. And then I can decide if it's time to haul my big old generator out and run the whole house so the kids can have Netflix while, the power's out everywhere else. So that's the first one. It's just a small, very short-term blackout bag. And then there's the more substantial one, and that is, what emergency measures organizations and everybody say that you should prepare for 72 hours, 3 days. And that's the bare minimum, I think. And in that case, that's for people that maybe don't have a generator or some form of backup power. And so in that case, you're going to build a more robust blackout kit, something that's going to be able to, get you by and be more than just comfortable, be able to, survive and thrive for the next 3 days with no power in your house. So I'm going to first talk about the 3-hour blackout kit, and then I'll talk about a bigger, more substantial 3-day blackout kit. Okay, like I said, the first kit is that 3-hour blackout kit. I just call it 3 hours, 3 and 3. It's nice symmetry there, right? But so the 3-hour bare minimum basic blackout kit. And this is the type of thing that, number one, if it's nice out and you want to lay in bed and think, I'm good. We don't need to set up the generator yet. This will get you by. Or number two, if it's real shitty outside, real gross weather, all of that, and you need to get your generator up and running, this is the type of stuff you're going to need in the interim to, for the family to be semi-comfortable and for you to be able to safely get out, start your generator, and get everything hooked up. So what do I keep in my, I call it my nightstand power outage kit, because honestly, the most important time to have these power outage items is going to be when it's dark outside. If it's daylight, you got a lot more time to put things together. And it seems like a lot of times the power, when it goes out unexpectedly, is when you're in bed at night. So if you wake up, so a lot of these items, not everything, but a lot of these I just keep in the top drawer of my nightstand table. But the most important part of putting together a blackout kit is having an area to collect them in. Ideally, a box or a crate or a Rubbermaid, but if not, a single drawer where everybody in the family knows they can find it. So for us, you know, if you're not into keeping it in a drawer like we are, there's this right here. This is my first aid kit, which I'll do another video on down the road. But what I picked up for that is a small, compact Rubbermaid storage container with locking handles. But the most important part, you see that blue seal all the way around? That is a waterproof rubber seal. When that clamps down, water can't get in there, or at least in theory, and it hasn't yet. So I've got 2 of these to put together my entire first aid kit. I'll talk about that another day. I'm no first aid expert, but I've managed to put together a robust first aid kit for my family. So have something like this to put everything in, or a drawer, and then teach the family how to use everything that's in the kit and show them where it is. So what do you need? Well, you wake up in the middle of the night, and of course, you're gonna need flashlights. And I like this one here. It's the Coast. It's 610 lumens. Anything you see in here, if it's something I reviewed or I've liked before, I'll put links to the Amazon product description below, just so you can check it out if you're interested. But this is my go-to headlamp. I keep a few headlamps around. My kids love them. They think it's fun. You know, they can go upstairs and hang around. When we have long-term power outages for a while and it was still nice out, I'd give them each a headlamp and they'd just be able to go around. But this is really important. I love flashlights, handheld flashlights. Yes, your phone has a flashlight. Yes, it'll work. You don't want to use your phone more than you have to in a power outage, of course. But I like this because it leaves your hands free. And I could put it on and look like a dorky miner, but you guys get the hint. But, you know, the brighter, the better. And this guy has treated me really well. So you need some sort of flashlight. That's the first thing, obviously. And then, of course, what good's a flashlight if you don't have batteries? Now, this is my battery organizer. I did a video on it before. I'll do an upgraded one down the road. You don't need something this spectacular, but, you know, make sure that you have a couple of packs of fresh batteries and make sure that they're the right size to fit your flashlight because, of course, if you need to get your generator started, you got to have some light to see or you're going to have a bad time. So batteries, a flashlight. Now, the next thing, information's important. So you might want to find out, hey, what's going on? And all of these items are going to go in the long-term kit as well, but just for the short term. So some sort of pocket radio. I mean, it's kind of funny, but if you have access to the internet or, you know, that sort of thing, Facebook's going to be a way better source for local information. But if the internet's down, 3G, 4G, 5G, whatever's all down, the only place you're going to be able to turn, and you may not even be able to do that, but will be local AM, FM radio. So you've got that, a radio in there. I may never use that radio, but it's there just in case. I test it once a year. Don't keep the batteries in it just in case something leaks, but you got to have information if there's a power outage. But, you know, that could be more of a long-term thing, but I like to keep it in my short-term 3 to 4 hour thing as well. Now, here's the next one. And this is a real short term, and this is a fire extinguisher, or I like the fire spray, simply because it's small, anybody can use it, and you can just throw it in a bag and go. And of course, when there's power outages, a lot of times you're going to have power surges. You know, you'll get, say, a tree limb on the power lines, it's going to go bzz, 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 you know, and sometimes it can cause things to overload and cause small fires. And if you're going to have a fire because of a power outage, it's going to happen right after or soon after the power outage. So having some way to fight the fire works really well. I absolutely love this First Alert fire spray. We've actually literally used it a bunch of times on the barbecue, and it just really works. I checked it. It's good for electrical fires as well. So having a couple of cans of this in a 3 to 4 hour blackout bag, not a bad idea whatsoever. A couple other quick things. Of course, a battery pack. This is my Anker 20,000 battery pack, battery bank. This gives you something because, of course, your phone is going to want it. You're going to go on it, and usually, originally, like when a power first goes out, the first thing you do is check your phone, and then you're going to be on it for a while because you're thinking, it's not going to be a long-term outage. But then all of a sudden, maybe you didn't plug your phone in last night, and you wake up in the middle of the night and your phone's down to 10%, and now you're thinking, what do I do? Well, one of these. You may not need it, but throw one of them in there. Just buy a cheap one if you have to. But I like having one that doubles as something I can travel with. Everything in here is something I use on a fairly regular basis for the most part. But a good battery bank is definitely essential to have in a blackout bag. Some candles, and again, you guys know that I love things that 2 is 1, 1 is none, and I love products that have multiple uses. So I never have a shortage of candles in my house because my wife loves candles. We always have some. You guys know also a lighter or some sort of source to light it with. This is my, I call it a Buy It for Life barbecue lighter. It's not quite, but you'll see the link below. This is my go-to. We always have a bunch of these around as well. But even if the power's outage, the power's out. It doesn't mean your house doesn't have to smell like Santa's cookies. Oh, that's a good one. I like that. Anyway, so some kind of candles and some way to light them is important as well. So if you know, just in case those batteries you thought were good that you put in there for your flashlight and they weren't, you got backup. Plus, you know, it smells good to have Santa's cookies around. And that's just about all that goes in there. A couple more little things. And of course, if you know your data and everything's down, or say your phone died and you want to have emergency contact information written down, laminated, something on a little card. Basically for me, it's just the power outage line. I don't know, sometimes it makes you feel like you're doing something by being able to call it and they'll tell you, power will be resumed within 3 to 33 hours, you know, that kind of thing, but it's good. Or maybe nobody's reported it yet and you want to call in and report the power outage, but have emergency contact numbers written down, because it's great to rely on our phones and they're there and ready almost all the time, but having a physical backup on hand of just that little bit of information is going to help you. And then the last most important thing of putting together a 3-hour blackout bag is training. Is showing your kids, like, you know, I could be away working somewhere, or, you know, maybe I don't know. Anyway, whatever you do, maybe you work away and you want to make sure your family knows, but you want to make sure your wife or your husband or your significant other knows where the stuff is, knows how to use it, knows why to use it, knows when not to use it. And, you know, maybe do a fake power outage with your kids a couple times. Say, okay, I want you to go down, get that headlamp on and turn it on. That might be all it is. Or, you know, I want you guys to know where I keep these in the house, which they do. I want you to know how to use it, which if you've seen my video, they know how to use the fire spray. Just those simple little things. And then we can move into the long-term blackout bag. So this is basically all I keep for a blackout bag. And it's basically enough to get me by for 3 to 4 hours while I lay in bed and think, you know, a hot coffee would be nice. I want to hook up the generator. Or it's just a short one. The power's nice, or the weather's nice. And I think, you know what? This is all I need. So this is the basic. This is what I normally keep. Now, if you are putting together a 3-day, 72-hour emergency kind of kit and plan for your house, and it doesn't include some form of backup power like a generator, then you really need to go into a longer term, bigger, what I call 3-day blackout bag. So let's talk about what we might want to throw into that. What would you be dealing with differently in a 3-day power outage as opposed to a 3-hour power outage? Well, if you're laying in bed and you're a little hungry in 3 hours, not a big deal. After 3 days, you need a way to cook food, open food, deal with food. You need a way to stay hydrated, all of that. So it's, you know, keep some bottled water on hand, keep some big jugs of water on hand, have a water filter so you can filter water if need be, that kind of stuff. But you need to have enough water on hand for 3 days. You need to have a can opener to open up shelf-stable foods, because that's going to be important. Now, are we going to just eat things cold, or are we going to heat them up? Possibly even just a little camp stove, but that's getting a little bit beyond. But for 3 days, a can opener with a bunch of shelf-stable food and some bottled water, that's going to get you by. So that's one thing. You definitely want to have a can opener and some bottled water stashed aside for a power outage. And if you don't, well, maybe we can't be friends, but we can all learn, right? A few other things, card games, because you're going to want to pass the time. You're not going to have power to turn on Netflix or DVDs or whatever it happens to be. So 2 or 3 card games is fun. We like Uno and Skippo and games like that. Just throw them in your little power outage box, or better yet, have a weekly or monthly family night. I'm talking to myself here because we don't do that often enough, but, you know, play cards, have something that passes the time, or maybe some board games, whatever, but you're going to need some form of entertainment in a 3-day blackout plan/bag. There's another one that not everybody thinks about, cash on hand, but I would say cash with small bills, because I've noticed in my area over the last while, there's been a lot of places that aren't taking hundreds, or even some aren't taking 50s anymore. And if the power's out, bank machines aren't going to work. Places aren't going to be able to take your debit card or your credit card to make payments. So you're going to need to have something on hand that's going to allow you to be able to go to the store, because in a 3-day outage, there's probably going to be something you absolutely need. I'd say don't go out if you don't have to, but if you have to, have cash on hand. How much? Well, that depends. You know, it really does. But even $100 of small bills is going to get you by. Now, more than that is ideal, but we won't get into all that today. But some cash on hand, and honestly in 20s, 10s, and 5s, because a lot of places might not have cash to break big bills, and you don't want to draw unnecessary attention to yourself. But mainly, a lot of places just don't want to take the big bills anymore, and they'll use a power outage to say, sorry, not going to happen. So, 20s, 10s, and 5s, keep some of that on hand. That's important. Warm clothes, maybe some clothes you don't wear all the time, but you need, just throw them in there as well, or at least have access to them. Now, if you're at home, they're all in your closet or cupboard, that's great. But if this is something you're trying to build to be a little more portable, maybe throw in an old sweater, an old pair of sweatpants, an old shirt, some underwear. Don't forget the ladies' stuff. Put it all in there, and you're good to go. So if it's something you have to grab and go, good. But if it just happens to be a power outage and you need some extra layers, you can throw those on as well. Now here's a couple other things you might need to think about. And this is a little bit outside the scope of a blackout bag, but know the location of emergency shelters in your area and also have an evacuation plan. So if things get really bad and you need to go away and stay in a hotel somewhere, you can absolutely do it. I have a plan for the 3 most common possible natural disasters in my area, and I have 3 routes to get away from each one if we need it, and I have ideas of where we'll go, where we'll stay if we need to do that. So you don't have to go that crazy, or that, not crazy, but that in depth with what you're doing. You just need to know, where can I go if this power outage lasts too long and I can't handle it. We just can't. We can't get by anymore. We need to go. So know where your emergency shelters are and have an evacuation plan just in case things get worse than you think they might be gonna. Have some moving blankets on hand. So I don't know if you guys can see this. I use a moving blanket as the cover for my table here where I shoot my videos. They're indispensable. I actually use them for moving as well. We just moved them. I moved a lady recently and used them. But what's great about them is throw them over as many as you have. Quilts, comforters, moving blankets, throw them over your freezer, even your fridge if you have to, and it will help extend the life of the stuff that's in there. It'll help keep it frozen. It'll help keep it, at least edible for a little bit longer. And just don't open your damn freezer, but keep it wrapped in blankets. It's going to make a big difference for you. Keep your car tank full. Now you might be saying, well, this isn't a blackout bag, Tim, but this is all part of, a nice 3-day blackout bag / plan. But make sure that you never let your car fuel tank go below half a tank. It took me a lot of years to realize that it doesn't cost any more money to keep a gas tank full than it does to let it go to empty. So if you keep it full or never go below half a tank, you've always got at least the range of a half a tank to get you by, to get you away if the emergency is too long. Something else that can be important, especially in a power outage, before you do, make sure you have all of your important documents and that sort of thing backed up to a flash drive, or encrypt them and throw them up on Google Drive, whatever you need. But make sure you have access to those, because sometimes things happen and you're like, oh, we got to go, and you don't have that information. So as long as you have at least electronic copies, it's better than having nothing whatsoever. Another thing that's rather important in a blackout kit or planning for a blackout kit is a battery-powered CO2 monitor. A lot of people have the plug-in style, and some are backup powered, but if you don't, pick one of those up so that if you're cooking inside, you got candles burning, 100 different things, you're trying to heat the place, you're safe. That is important. Get one of those, test it every so often, throw it in your bag if you need to, or in your blackout kit, so that okay, I'm good. All right, so I hope that helps. That's kind of the basic bare necessities. I will bet I forgot 100 things, but then people are going to say, well, yeah, but what do I do if my food's going to go bad? And anyway, so this is to get you by for 3 days. The stuff in your freezer, if you wrap it with blankets, is probably not going to go bad in 3 days. Now, if it's cold outside, take the stuff from your fridge and put it outdoors in a snowbank. My dad always used to love to do that. On Christmas, he'd take the pop, and there's no room in the fridge. He's like, guess what, Tim? I'm going to put the pop out in the snowbank, and it's going to stay cold. Yeah, that's great. I love that. So if your fridge is warming up and you're trying to keep your house warm, don't let your food spoil in your fridge simply because you didn't put it outside in a snowbank. And if it's nice out and it's too hot and you're worried about stuff going off in the fridge, whatever you can cook, take it out and grill it on your barbecue. Whatever it is, there's always solutions. And of course, if you're going into 3, 4, 5 days, start pulling out that meat out of your deep freeze and start cooking it. But you're good for a few days between the insulation and wrapping your blankets. And then, you might look at getting a small automotive inverter, something big enough you can plug into your car and then you can run your freezer once in a while and your fridge once in a while. But that is for another day to talk about for another video. So I hope you guys liked this look into what I put together for a blackout bag, how I handle power outages, and I hope you learned something from it. I know I learned things just by putting these videos together, and I know you guys will tell me the things I forgot, or maybe suggestions that I could add to it to improve it, or maybe things that you've come across, tips or tricks or whatever. Or maybe you could tell us a story about when you planned for a power outage and you failed miserably. I love hearing that. And if you're new here, hit the subscribe button, stick around, become part of our community, let us know who you are, share your knowledge with us, and let's grow together, guys. So I appreciate you dropping by. As always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.